Could CM Punk be set for this ultimate dream match? But first, is this current AEW star set to walk away? Ric Flair would recently make his All Elite Wrestling debut as a surprise gift for the retiring Sting, with him set to accompany his longtime friend and rival during the final stretch of his illustrious career. However, Tony Khan's decision to sign the Nature Boy didn't come without its criticisms, this due to the past allegations made against the 16-time world champion. Not only this, but the timing was certainly interesting, considering that Khan took shots at Vince McMahon and his alleged behavior just weeks prior. The heat on Flair would once again ramp up this week after he appeared in a pre-taped promo after Wednesday's live episode of Dynamite, with the segment set to air tonight on AEW Rampage. During said speech, the 74-year-old would invite all women in the audience from the ages of 18 to 28 to join him in his hotel room. No boyfriends and no husbands. An odd sentence not only due to his age, but due to the stories already being held against him. Rick would respond to the backlash on X last night, stating that he's willing to walk away from AEW if it's the right thing to do, when he would say, "I am so tired of hearing all this negativity. I don't need to work and I don't need the money. Can't I simply enjoy being by my dear friend Sting's side for the next few months without so much hatred? I know I'm old, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy life. I have earned the right to do whatever I want and I'm exactly where I want to be. I appreciate everything, Tony Khan, but I'm more than willing to walk away if I'm embarrassing you and your company. All I can say is, I'm sorry." It's very likely that the controversial line will be cut from tonight's broadcast of Rampage, although it remains to be seen where Tony Khan stands on the situation in regards to Flair's offer to walk away. And next, an agreement has been made between AEW and CM Punk. Heading into this week's Monday Night Raw, fans were expecting a verbal onslaught towards All Elite Wrestling from CM Punk, this following his recent termination from the company and the circumstances surrounding it, with us instead getting subtle references to making Tony Khan fear for his life, as well as Punk putting business before friendship, but that was about it. Shortly after the episode aired, the AEW president himself would appear in an interview with the BBC, where he would be asked his thoughts on the WWE return of the Second City Saint. Khan would confirm that he isn't legally able to comment on this, a sign that some kind of legal action has been made. Well, according to this week's edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, a non-disclosure agreement is in place between all parties involved in the circumstances surrounding CM Punk's AEW exit, and Dave Meltzer would report. While promoting All In, Tony Khan was asked about Punk's departure and said, "I can't talk about that, nor do I think it's the time or the place, but I appreciate you asking, and I'm very excited about AEW All In at Wembley Stadium. Not to dodge or duck your question, it's just not something I can legally talk about." For those wondering or disappointed that Punk said nothing about AEW, it's because both he and others have signed several NDAs regarding talking publicly about the other. It looks like we won't be getting the big expose from either side of this story anytime soon, and it remains to be seen if this agreement has an expiration date on it or not, and it could be possible that we never hear either side of the story in an official capacity. And next, two huge names have been announced for tonight's episode of WWE SmackDown. On the same night that CM Punk would make his return to WWE, Randy Orton would also come back after more than a year on the shelf, with him appearing as the final entrant in the Men's War Games match at Survivor Series. Once the Viper would also show up 2 days later on Monday Night Raw, he's also set for an appearance on tonight's SmackDown. WWE's official preview of the episode lists an appearance not only from Randy Orton, but also social media star Logan Paul, who is of course the reigning WWE United States Champion. It seems Orton looks set to be a regular member of the SmackDown roster rather than Raw moving forward, this after a big win over current NXT North American Champion Dominic Mysterio this past Monday night. Next, we have the latest on the possibility of Warner dropping AEW for WWE. On last night's video, we would discuss a recent report from WrestleWorld that revealed Warner Bros. Discovery were leading the race to secure the rights for Monday Night Raw, a deal that would leave All Elite Wrestling in limbo due to all of their programming airing on Warner networks, namely TBS and TNT. Were such a deal to be agreed, it would almost certainly be an exclusive one, forcing AEW to look elsewhere during their own ongoing broadcast broadcast negotiations. With that said, we would also give the perspective of Andrew Zarian of Mat Men Podcast, somebody with reliable sources within Warner, who noted that he has not heard anything about Raw landing on a WBD property. Whilst originally Dave Meltzer would seemingly confirm the initial report to be true, he has now clarified his stance in today's Wrestling Observer newsletter, adding that whilst talks were proposed on the WWE side of things, the pitch didn't go too far, and Dave would note, regarding Warner Bros. Discovery being interested in WWE Raw television rights, the WBD version told to many this week is that Nick Khan last went to WBD in October with a pitch and was turned down. Dave would add that Disney are currently in the pole position to get the rights to Raw, with this seeing the show move from the USA Network to FX, whilst confirming that Netflix, USA, Warner and Amazon are all being talked about as possibilities. Next up is this former WWE champion signing for AEW. Rowdy Ronda Rousey would recently make a surprise appearance on the November 23rd edition of Ring of Honor, a show taped the night of a live AEW Collision on November 17. She would team up with MMA training partner Marina Shafir to defeat current ROH Women's Champion Athena and Billy Starks, leading to speculation if more could come from Rousey in either ROH or AEW. TMZ would manage to catch up with the former UFC and WWE Women's Champion this week, where she was asked if she could soon become all elite in the future, something she confirmed isn't likely to happen. She would respond, No, I don't think so. Just trying to be home with the family and be a full-time mom. These comments align with an answer from Tony Khan at the AEW Full Gear Media Scrum, where the AEW president confirmed that there are no current plans in place for Ronda to join the roster, although he is open to working with her again anytime. And next we had the latest on the AEW future of this former world champion. The American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, is on the final stretch of his full-time wrestling career, with him expected to work the AEW All-In London show at Wembley Stadium next summer, which will likely signal the end for him in his current capacity. Speaking with UK sports outlet The Athletic this week, AEW president Tony Khan would be asked about Bryan's future in All Elite Wrestling, with him confirming that whilst his full-time wrestling career will be over next year, he could still appear for the promotion on a part-time basis moving forward, and he would say, Bryan and I made an agreement 3 years to the week before AEW All in 2024. The agreement was that Bryan would wrestle full-time for 3 years. Even 3 years in advance of the expiration of the agreement, I was already clawing for him to stay. He will stay with us in spirit and sometimes, occasionally, make sporadic appearances with us. But the end of the full-time run with us is going to be in 2024. Danielson has been out of action since the October 25 episode of AEW Dynamite, this after suffering from a broken orbital bone the week prior. He's scheduled to return to the ring tomorrow night on the latest edition of AEW Collision, where he takes on Eddie Kingston as part of the Blue League side of the bracket. Next up, could CM Punk be set for this Ultimate Dream match? Ever since CM Punk made his unexpected return to WWE at Survivor Series last weekend, at least personally, one of the opponents that I've hoped will step into the ring with a straight-edge superstar is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Whilst both men live vastly different lifestyles away from the ring, their on-screen personas are extremely similar in the fact they're not afraid to say it how they see it and to stick it to the powers that be. It wasn't too long ago that Austin ended his near 2-decade retirement to step into the ring once again at WrestleMania 38, with him battling in and winning a street fight against Kevin Owens, making the Punk match a realistic possibility if the cards fell into place. Well, it seems that WWE have had the same idea, as according to a fresh report from Fightful Select, the promotion are hopeful of making the match happen, and Sean Ross Sapp would write, as of now, we're told many in WWE are hopeful and even optimistic that the match could finally be put together. One source in the company had indicated that many ideas have already been floated between CM Punk and WWE. We've not heard how far along in talks, planning, or pitches that this is, but that if all went well, the ideal scenario would see Punk flying to Austin to go over ideas. One source indicated that while that is the ideal scenario, there's a lot to get through first. Those close to Austin say they've never heard him mention any personal issues that the two would need to get over, and actually indicated that they drop messages to each other a couple of times a year or so. The two men have crossed paths a few times before, once during a backstage segment in 2011 where the Rattlesnake warned Punk that he could kick his ass backwards, and later that night Stone Cold would drop Punk with a Stone Cold Stunner in a dark segment after Raw. In late 2012, things would really start to heat up when both men appeared in a sit-down interview to promote the WWE 13 video game, where a future match was heavily teased, however, nothing ever came to fruition. That commercial showed the incredible chemistry that Punk and Austin have with each other and could be a sign of things to come in 2024. And before you go, make sure you check out 10 facts that MJF doesn't want you to know.